Everyone take their seats, please. Thank you, everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone to Town of Aurora Committee General Committee meeting for Tuesday, December 1st at 7:01 p.m. in the Council Chambers. I'd like to ask at this point if there's any declarations of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof. Seeing none, I'd like an approval of the agenda, if I can. As amended. Councillor Marcus, Mayor Daw, all in favor? Oh, my apologies. Comments or questions? Yes.
Could we get clarification as to why item 9 was withdrawn?
Thank you, Mr. Muno, if you can.
Certainly through you, Madam Chair. Apologize for my voice. I just heard from one of the property owners at the northeast corner of St. John's and Leslie Street. They want some more time to review our proposed amendment, and so I thought it was appropriate to withdraw it. I have a meeting scheduled with them over the next couple of weeks, then I'll advise council as the next steps.
Thank you, Mr. Muno. Any other questions? Okay, all in favor? Perfect, that passes. May I have a determination of items requiring a separate discussion? I'll start with Councillor Peary.
13, please.
Perfect. Councillor Kim?
2 and 12.
2 and 12. Thank you. Councillor Tom?
Mine were pulled. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor? Perfect. Councillor Abel? Councillor Thompson?
Number 3 and number 7, please.
Thank you. Councillor Gartner?
Number 10 and number 11.
Thank you. And Councillor Maracus?
Nothing for me, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you so much. May I have a... Do we vote on that yet?
Motion.
Thank you very much. May I have an adoption of the items not required a separate discussion? Councillor Tom? Councillor Maracus, all in favor? Passes. Thank you very much. This evening we have a delegation. We'll start off with delegations. And Mr. Scanlon, regarding the traffic concerns on John West Way, Civic Square Gate, and Hollingview Trail. If I can have Scanlon, thank you very much. You have 5 minutes.
Well, it's good to know you guys have quick meetings, eh? Yes, yes. Okay, that's good. I know. I'm on the board too, and I know they can last forever. Okay, thank you very much for hearing my concerns. I'd like to take this opportunity, first of all, present myself, Mike Scanlon. I live at 111 Civic Square Gate here up the road. And I'm going to give the copies of the signed petitions to Linda here for these. Thank you. Along with that, I gave a couple of pictures, examples of things, but basically we're having some problem with a number of things, including volume, speed, and sight line. It's just something that creeps up on you very quickly, and it happens many times every day, where you're just trying to turn left, go southbound, you look to the north, and there's usually cars parked there. And this was a picture Saturday morning, and there's always a few cars parked there, and you just don't know for sure if anybody's going to pop out. So we hear an awful lot of screeching of wheels and honking of horns regularly every day. So along with the speed and the volume and the sight line, the road is just too darn, getting very unsafe. And we just want to ask the town if they could look into putting maybe implement some kind of traffic calming measures. I know this town's growing crazy, just like in Newmarket. I was in Newmarket for 28 years, and I was a part of a committee there. It took about 10 years to get things resolved. Hopefully it won't be for here. But it's just that it's been waiting for a really bad accident. This thing all the time is a lot of close calls. So hopefully the town has an appetite to look into it and put it on the list of to-do list, and that would be great. So I could just tell the people at least the town's going to be looking into it in some fashion. That's it.
Great, thank you very much. May I have a motion to receive? Councillor Marcus, Councillor Thompson. Any questions for the delegate this evening? Councillor Abel and Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you very much, Mr. Scanlon, for coming forward. And Councillor Maracus and myself attended with some of the residents.
Yes, and I want to thank you. I forgot to mention that. Thank you guys both very much for coming by and having a couple people talk to you.
One of the primary issues was that the light is only for traffic moving north and south.
Correct.
And they suggested that an intersection light would assist greatly in a pedestrians crossing and also the vehicles moving in and out of Civic Square.
Yeah.
So that was what was, in my mind, was impressed upon me.
Well, yeah. None of those ladies are engineers, believe me. Traffic engineers know a lot more than any of us, of course, but I know people have had all kinds of different ideas. The four-way lighted intersection would be great, but I don't know if the criteria is there to justify it. But the town has to look at what the professional traffic engineers say, and they can determine what would be the right thing. Otherwise, you guys could just compound a problem or create another problem, right?
I guess you're right. I'm not an engineer either, so.
No.
I was just trying to get I just thought I'd mention it because that was one of the items. Also, you have mentioned traffic calming, so or some sort, or just to acknowledge that there is excessive speeds and volumes going around at that part of John Westway.
Yeah, that along with the sight line, as I said, go back to the sight line, it's even if everybody's doing 40, those people parked, especially on the curb going to northbound, it's really difficult to see them until they're right on your back end, you know, and people have time to slow down, but it's a lot of screeching of horns and honking of horns and screeching of tires because there are a lot of close calls there.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner.
Thank you very much for coming. I think it was this council that put in that light there, and we thought that would slow things down and help the seniors in those buildings. So with respect to the sightlines, you think if there was more parking control, that would really help out a lot, especially on the curbs?
I think that would be one of the measures that would be considered, absolutely. You wouldn't be the be-all and end-all, but that would probably help it a little bit. I often thought it would have been better for the seniors to have it on the other side, right across, because they have to venture across a couple streets there. And they're the ones that have they're the most chronologically challenged, aren't they? So anyhow, the light does help a lot, but if you had no parking in that area for like 200 or 300 feet or whatever, that would probably help, absolutely. That would be a great start. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming forward.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions of the delegate? Councillor Peary?
So I would definitely say that I live in the building, so I acknowledge that there is some speeding issues that occur on the street. So I appreciate Mr. Scanlon coming out today. Just want to say thank you for that.
Any other comments for the delegate? Maybe something for under new business? Perfect. We can, if you want to stay for the rest of the meeting, you don't have to, but I think someone will be probably putting this in new business for staff direction to take a look further into that
Fantastic.
area.
I can tell everybody, the ladies in the coffee and the cupcake patrol, I'll let them know. Thank you very
Bring
much.
cupcakes here and, anyway,
Well, John, did you have any cupcakes? Did you? No?
2 more?
You did, Tom? No? Okay. Well, you guys, you could have brought some back, you know, anyhow. But I will tell everybody at the building, and they'll greatly appreciate it. Just have a look-see at it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Councillor Gardner?
I just wanted to make a comment. I don't know if you're aware, we have these wonderful signs that basically say, "Slow down, children playing." You might want to take a couple of those home.
I remember when, about where that car was parked, you had the little illuminated line that would flash the speed, you know, if you're doing 43, you're doing
Right.
83 or whatever.
Right.
And that was
Was that
always,
helpful?
you know, the one that they park off to the side. I know people consider that a bit of a challenge. Let's see what I can do. You know, I don't know. Anyhow, you can put all kinds of signs up.
Okay.
If you enforce a parking, for example, for a couple hundred feet or whatever, that would probably help more than all of the be careful, because there are kids that come across from school all the time. Yeah, but
Okay.
we get a little overwhelmed with all of those signs a bit. Maybe I don't know. Maybe it's like white noise. I don't know. Just.
Just thought it might be worth a try.
Well, it might be. Put up a couple signs. You never know. Yeah.
Thank you. That's great. Thank you very much for coming this evening. Appreciate it. Thank you all. Do we have a vote, again, a vote for a motion to receive the delegation? All in favor? Perfect. Thank you. Is that carried? It's carried. Thank you very much, Lord. Any presentations for any advisory committee boards by the chair? Anyone interested in sharing anything from their meetings? Okay, none seen. How about we go right into considerations of items requiring a separate discussion? And I'd just like to poll the audience if there's anything that you're most curious about this evening, or to hear any items on the agenda that you'd like to. Item 2? Good thing it's the first item. Thank you, Councillor Abel. Okay, so this, I think if we've polled the audience, so we're going to go right into the standard agenda. So we'll go with item number 2, which was raised by Councillor Kim. Councillor Kim?
Thank you, Mrs. Chair.
Would you like to move forward?
Oh,
as
yeah, that's right. Yes. Can I move it on the floor, please?
As is? Perfect.
is.
And is there a seconder? Councillor Maracus. Go ahead, Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Mrs. Chair. Through you to Ms. Van Leeuwen, I was very happy to see this come out. I think January was the last time that we, or not the last time, but originally when we were talking about something like this. So I read that it will be about a 9 to 12 month turnaround for the system to come online. Is there, for this winter, is there any interim or auxiliary plan for those who may wish to park their car overnight, because of, a holiday party, or because they had too much partying and they had to park their cars? Like, is there an auxiliary plan for that, or do we just have to go through another year of?
Good, Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Madam Chair. Certainly, we can look at doing something manually, provided we have some advance notice. The just-in-time parking permit really requires an online system and an upgrade to our AIMS program. But certainly, if we have some advance notice, if somebody is having a party and expects that there will be guests, that we could likely accommodate that through a manual system.
Thank you, Councillor Kim.
Thank you. And, I'm really ecstatic that we're doing something for the residents around the town park regarding the GO train parkers who shouldn't be parking there to begin with. So I'm happy about that, and I'm sure those residents that live in the neighborhood are equally ecstatic. Can you elaborate in terms of the 15 parking spaces at the town park that's been allocated for permitted parking for the residents? Has there been a lot of, I know I've heard of a couple, but have there been a lot of demands from residents who need the extra parking space?
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Madam Chair, based on feedback that we have received over the past year, I believe there is a need and request for these spaces. I'm not sure if 15 will satisfy the number of residents who require additional spaces. Of course, we will be monitoring this program over the next year to really fine tune it. I think it will be, a living program, and it will require some fine tuning. Those spaces are allocated to residents who live in close proximity to the park, and we wanted to provide some kind of parameters around that, but we want to also apply some discretion. So, if they're 2 blocks away or 2.5 blocks away, provided they're in close proximity, we're going to require proof of residency and, some kind of parameters around close proximity without having a hard and fast line.
Thank you. Councillor Kim?
And through you, Madam Chair, so is there something special around the town park? I'm sure there's a long history around the town park, and I'm prefacing this by saying I'm not for or against having 15 parks allotted for residents or more or less, but I'm curious as to if I were to move into a house that had a townhouse with a single with the driveway that can only accommodate 1 car, and I had 3 cars, I wouldn't expect the town to create space for me on the street, and I can pay to have extra parking. So can you elaborate in terms of what's so special about the town park area that residents, we need to make space for the residents?
Ms. Fallon?
Through you, Madam Chair, the neighborhood around Town Park is an older neighborhood, and many of those houses have been converted into multiple dwellings and permitted under our zoning bylaw, but you could have 2 to 3 dwellings within a house building form and with limited parking. Single driveway, limited parking in the front or side yard. And so it's created a demand for additional parking.
Thank you. Councillor Kim?
Okay, and in terms of the fee, were there any consultation with the residents in terms of whether the fee is something that's amicable for them as well?
Ms. Fallon?
Through you, Madam Chair, we haven't gone out to do any formal consultation. It's just been based on feedback that we've received from residents in the area, as well as we have a parking program at Town Hall currently for our overnight that's been in existence for some time, and it's the uptake is very positive, and the permit fees don't seem to be of concern.
Thank you. Councillor Kim?
And, sorry, lastly then, so regarding because residents will need, it seems like permanent extra spots, will this be an annual type of permit, or will this be just day by day?
Ms. Fallon?
Through you, Madam Chair, we've got a flexible program. So it could be for a weekend, it could be for a year, it could be for a short period of time. It is a flexible program.
Thank you. That's good. That's it.
Thank you.
Mayor Daw?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Ms. Van Loon, for bringing this forward. Better late than never, right? I think, Council, that we all need to be aware of, as soon as people start receiving, first of all, the notification, and then secondly, the parking tickets, is that our email volume from the other side of the equation will go up. And there's also going to be, the people who are parking there are going to find other places to park. So I think we all need to be aware that that's going to happen. I don't know how we address that. I just think we need to be aware that that will indeed happen. And Councillor Kim alluded to it, maybe unwittingly, but one of the most offensive things that I've ever had said to me in this position is people accuse me of promoting drinking and driving because we won't let people who've had too much to drink park their car in the road overnight. And so I just thought I'd say that because I find that really offensive. You are your own liquor control board.
Thank you, Mayor Daw. interesting. Councillor Garner, Councillor Abel?
Thank you. I'd like to thank the residents who've come forward tonight, who've been trying to work on this issue for at least 12 years. They are pleased with this as a first step, but their suggestion, as the mayor has said, is that the parking is just going to move somewhere else. So could we perhaps look into having a 3-hour morning parking limit in the surrounding area, not just the town park?
Thank you, Councillor Garner. Ms. Fallon?
Through you, Madam Chair, if I understand, to introduce a 3-hour limit on the streets surrounding Town Park. There currently is a 2-hour limit. That is part of what has created this parking situation. And that was to address the commuter parkers who would park on the street. So instead of parking now on the streets, because we have a 2-hour limit, they're parking in Town Park. So we can certainly look at implementing some kind of limitations for, you know, expanding where that limit is to other streets, not just the streets adjacent to Town Park, but maybe 1 or 2 blocks out, certainly. And maybe there is a monitoring of this situation on an ongoing basis over the next 6 months, a year, to, you know, evaluate, is this program the right program for this area, and then come back to council with some information in terms of, you know, was it successful? Where, you know, does it need to be tweaked? What does that look like?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Follow-up. I think from what I've seen is the primary problem time is maybe from 6 to 9 in the morning. When this GO service expands, I don't know what's going to change with that. But in that, could it be could you look at, please, a limit, a 3-hour limit or a 2-hour limit between the hours of 6 and 9? Because I don't think we'd have to enforce it very much for it to work.
Certainly.
Ms. Fallon, did you want to respond?
Through you, Madam Chair. Certainly, we can look at that. I would, like I said, I would suggest that we implement the program as outlined in the report, and then perhaps over the next 3 months, maybe even a shorter time period, come back with an update as to where the issues may be and how the program is working and what the uptake on the program is.
Thank you. And I think Councillor Peary has a motion coming forward at some point about transit service, maybe dedicated transit service. Whose motion is that? Councillor Abel. Yes. Good motion. But I mean, I don't think the residents know that they can take the bus for 50 cents from their homes to the GO station. The problem is that 75 now. It doesn't run very often. That's the problem.
Thank you, Councillor Garner. Councillor Abel, and then Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Chair, I have asked Ms. Van Leeuwen for months when the parking bylaw was coming forward, and the answer was you were working with infrastructure for a response back. And is this it?
Through you, Madam Chair, Ilmar is responsible for bringing forward amendments to our parking bylaw. The traffic analyst falls within IES. I think we had some initial discussions, and it seemed that perhaps it would be easier to come forward with this parking permit program as a phased approach to more comprehensive parking and traffic analysis. So this is a first phase, and Mr. Savanoskis can respond to the other.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan. Did Mr. Savanoskis, if you can.
Certainly through you, Madam Chair. So to Ms. Van Leeuwen's comments, this first phase would give us some opportunity to trial the program to see how the enforcement side could be managed, and if there are still issues that need to be resolved or opportunities to improve parking accessibility and timing issues, then we could look at some other more parking policy directed decisions. The challenge is if we make if we make parking policy changes without actually testing the enforcement side first, we're going to be affecting the whole town for really some smaller areas that are critical or having bigger challenges. So if this doesn't work as we plan, we can look at sort of the next step. But we are working together. We've had several meetings as staff to see what makes the most sense, and this is sort of the first step that we've come up with.
Thank you,
Just
Councillor.
my comments, taken a very, very long time. This must be a very complex issue. I have asked on a number of occasions, and I'll do it again. I think maybe this is the time to address it because I do see them outlined here. One is the, I guess it's under ad hoc parking exemptions. Mayor Daw alluded to it about, if you drink too much, then you've still got to figure out what you're going to do with your car, because you should have thought of that before you came. But under extenuating circumstances, I would allow for exceptions if someone was asked not to drive home and to take a cab or take a ride home with someone else or stay the night, that they did a right thing. Perhaps they could have been smarter, as the mayor suggests, but I'm trying to be practical. And my comment would be, who are they going to phone at 2 in the morning, and how are they going to get an exemption in the wintertime? So that, unless, if I was a host, I could phone ahead and say, it could occur, and here's my address. And in that's the case, I would pay $10. Is that correct?
Ms. Bellin?
Through you, Madam Chair. That's correct. Like, as I mentioned earlier, if we have some advance notice, we could implement that at this point in time. The enhancements to our AIMS program, which is our automated system for issuing tickets, the enhancements will allow for a just-in-time permit, so they could purchase permits online, and it would be real time. And then our parking control officers would have that information in their handheld ticket processor.
So at 1:30 in the morning, I could go online, pay my $10, give notification, and then if bylaw came by, they typically come by at 5:30 in the morning, I believe, they would have that information on their AIMS, A-M-I-S. Are we going to call it AIMS?
Ms.
It
Bellin?
is AIMS.
It is, in
Yes,
fact.
that's a acronym. I can't.
We'll call it AIMS, because that's
Yes,
what it
AIMS.
is.
That's correct. Through you, Madam Chair.
All
That is
right.
correct. So it would automate, it's an automated system, and they could purchase those parking permits online.
So I've had, I take calls and emails from residents that appeal to me to say, gee whiz, I didn't know what else to do, but I didn't want to let the person get in the vehicle, and sure enough, I got tagged. Or my son's home for Christmas with his children, just with my grandchildren, and he left the car on the road and he got ticketed. But these would only apply in the winter months, if I'm correct, when there's parking restrictions.
Ms. Bellin?
Through you, Madam Chair, yes, typically, other than if they were parked in other areas that are restricted all year round because of safety reasons, like too close to a stop sign or on a curve, or those areas that have restricted parking all year round.
No parking, fire route, right.
Right.
Well, I'm glad to see you've got it, but what we have to do is sort of get the communication out, and that's not a strong point in this in this municipality. So we've got to work on that. I know about it, but I don't know how the general population. And when people get a ticket, I'm going to say to them, "Well, you could have gone online," and they're going to, "Geez, now you tell me." And I see, and I appreciate you got special consideration for RVs, boats, because people that park their boats and no one complains can leave them there for months. But someone leaves it for one night because they come home and they've got someone waiting for them. They give a call and they get tagged. But some of the people do say to me that they do come back in their RVs on a Sunday night and are going to move it the next day on the Monday. And so if they know in advance, they can make arrangements to leave it there for that one night and not expect a ticket and won't get one. I appreciate that. My biggest concern, and I've said it from the beginning, is our winter parking restrictions. And I want to advocate for some leniency, because we've been using this enforcement for over 10 years, and we're already tagging people. We blitzed, and thank you very much for providing me that when we did this the first day, we had 51 tickets that we got on the Sunday morning on November 15th. I don't know how many you've issued since, but you certainly made it known to the residents that winter parking is enforcement. We haven't had any snow plowing out to date. Our Where Is My Plow is not online, and the simple reason is because it hasn't snowed. So I don't know why we're enforcing parking enforcements. I do want to sort of adapt what they do in other municipalities, and that's to work with the residents. In Ottawa, which gets twice the snowfall we get, they don't have winter parking. They say if there's snow forecast, and their communication says snow is forecast, then the vehicles have to be removed from the road. So that's a huge, that's working with your residents and being practical in my mind. Kingston, which gets a lot more snow than we do, they start theirs in December. And so I asked at the last meeting, it was in General Committee, when do we typically get our first snowfall? Do we document that? Can we go back in our records for the last 10 years and see when we typically get our first snowfall, how many we get in December, so that we can sort of shrink the enforcement? I think that we can, with our residents, say to them, if there's snow in the forecast, you have to remove your car, rather than start it and end it when there is no snow falling. And so that's what I would like to amend in our parking bylaw. I don't see that here on this. Is that coming down later? Do I have to wait patiently again? Because, through you, Madam Chair, who would I ask? And is my time up?
No.
Okay,
You-
thank you.
You've got about 30 seconds, but go ahead.
Well,
Councillor Bill, you
I
have a
can see the
question?
clerk here. I can tell when he's going to cut me.
I'll be lenient. You do
Okay.
your thing.
So through you, Madam Chair,
Ms. Van Loon? I
do
think?
we document when we typically get our first snowfall of the year, and can we assemble that information so that we can better serve our community and be a little more, like I think, adult about the whole thing, common sense?
Mr. Zanauskas, if you want to
Certainly
take
to you,
that.
Madam Chair, I'd be happy to review our snowfall history. I know, I mean, this year is a warmer season, so we're actually in very good shape this year. Hopefully, we won't have any snow till Christmas. But we have had, the last 2 winters, we have had snowfalls in sort of the latter third of the month of November. So it is possible, but I'd be happy to review that aspect of it. I do agree that having overnight parking restrictions when there really isn't any event to be worried about it can be problematic. So I'd be happy to review that and augment Ms. Van Loon's report with some additional information.
So before I give any approval on that matter, I'm not approving that as yet. I would like the opportunity for council to consider some options on that.
Thank you, Councillor Abel. So just, if I can just summarize, this is okay, but we're looking for more inclusive parking strategy overall, right? Okay, thank you. Sorry, Councillor, oh, I'm sorry, Mrs. Valens, my apologies.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just would perhaps suggest that if we monitor this program as outlined, come back with a follow-up report within 3 months, we can include that information around the typical snow events and when they occur, and provide some options in that report.
Councillor Abel, how's that sound to you?
My comment was, when I brought this up last year, that we would be employing it this year. So what you're asking is for another season, another year before I can tell the residents we're going to approach them. So, I mean, I would like it sooner. I would like to amend that as soon as possible, but I appreciate your response.
Thank you, Councillor Abel. And maybe we can look at some of the historical winter, last 5 years or something, and come up with something, some sort of strategy. But Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Ms. Van Loon. Ms. Van Loon, the issue of having those that currently park at the town park spread out to other areas of the town was mostly addressed when you said that there's a 2-hour limit on streets around it. I think the one place that I'd be concerned of them parking now is where the library and cultural center is. Are there time restrictions there currently?
Ms. Van
Through you, Madam Chair, I'm not aware of any time restrictions off the top of my head, but certainly we can look into what those might be. And for clarity, are you talking about the streets surrounding or just in the parking lots themselves? I will have to check on that.
Yeah, specifically, and I know it's a little bit further away, but and some may choose to go there, and I think it's just something that we should keep an eye on. I know that it's already a challenged spot to park in for both the library and the cultural center and the surrounding buildings, but I just think it's something we should be aware of. I did also want to just make a comment. I think that it's great in terms of, the implementation phase where you talk about the first month, working with everyone, and then the second month perhaps adopting some sort of toys for tickets program similar to what we've had here. I know from the feedback I've gotten from staff that it's been very successful this term so far, and so I look forward to seeing more of it later.
Thank you, that's right. Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Yeah, and I love looking at the toys at the front. Sorry. Any other, Councillor Maracus, Councillor Hill again, anyone? Oh, Councillor Thompson, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a few comments. I think it's great that we're taking this as a first step, and I mean, as Ms. Van Leeuwen already mentioned, I think that when it comes back to us a little bit later, we can kind of look at how it's worked, and I'm sure there will be some tinkering and some changes. We're not going to solve the parking within the town as a whole overnight. It's a problem that's been a long time, and I think the parking within Town Park was a real big issue, and I think we're taking a really good first step to solving that. I do agree with Councillor Abel with the parking restrictions overnight during the winter, considering it's not snowing. I'd love to hear an amendment, possibly, Councillor Abel. I'm more than happy to second that, but I'll leave that up to you.
Thank you, Councillor Marcus. We still have Councillor Thompson wants to speak for the first time, but we'll go back to Councillor Abel. I saw your hand up, so is that okay if I go to Councillor Tom? Councillor Tom, and anyone else who's...
Thanks, Madam Chair, and I won't repeat what people have said about the town park. I think it's great that we're moving forward, as everyone said. With the overnight parking, I, like Councillor Abel, and probably like everyone, but certainly like Councillor Abel, he's definitely taken this issue up, is the overnight parking during the winter time. I've heard a lot about that.
Point of order, can I bring us back? I know Councillor Abel went on about this, but the program we're talking about has to do with parking controls at Town Park. The overall town-wide winter parking is outside the scope of what we're discussing here tonight.
I beg
Thank
to
you.
differ.
Actually, through, excuse me.
It's right in the chart.
If I could just, this was, may I say a few words? Although the parking permit program, it's what it's titled, it speaks specifically to our most problematic area at Town Park at the moment. It does have recommendations for across the board and stipulations for overnight parking on a chart. So unfortunately, it does cover a wider spectrum. But the motion on the table right now is what it is, and it includes the Ames program. Please continue, Councillor Tom.
I probably would have been finished my question by now. So, my question is, with respect to the overnight parking, I'm not going to repeat everything that everyone said, but I know you'll probably hash this out, but obviously if you got the same guy asking for a permit every night, is there going to be something addressed with respect to that? Because it's one thing if you're having some people over at a party and you had one night or something like that, but if the same guy or a gal is doing this every day, so I just want to know if you have thought of that, and if not, maybe just take a note and include it in the report or whatever.
Thank you, Ms. Van Leeuwen.
Through you, Madam Chair, on the chart, you'll see that there is a limit to the number of requests per address. And we did some research with other municipalities, and it seems that this is a best practice across municipalities where they're putting some limits to the number of permits, permit exempt or overnight exemptions per address, so that it's not an ongoing basis. Again, monitoring, tweaking, I think, is probably required.
Thank you, Ms. Van Leeuwen. Thank you. I think Councillor Abel, you were next.
And I'm going to talk about the town park parking. I think we really have an issue here because we're putting in a solution and it's going to create another problem. The problem we have is there's not enough parking at the GO station. Now, when this first started happening, a few cars would park at the town park strategically to jump out and get going. But now they have to go to the town park because there is nowhere else to park. And I had a call from a mother who has to drop her children off at school and has to take the 8 o'clock train and is going to be just beside herself if she can't park. Every time she comes, she can only park at the town park. So this is going to impact her when we do this, and I think others. What we really want to do is solve what the problem is the parking issue at the GO station isn't enough. So if we can solve that, then we should be able to affect the town park. But it just seems unfair to me that we're going to compound a problem for people taking the later trains by now telling them that they can't park there. So as Councillor Thompson said, they're going to park somewhere else. So I said to the resident who called me, and she was quite upset, I said, how about public transit? And that was not, I don't want to give you a reaction, and that's why I brought my notice of motion forward. We have to get people onto a transit and keep the cars away. Now, I've also been advised that a lot of the cars are from out of town. However, if we can get our residents in our town to leave their cars at home and take public transit, then we will probably address the parking issue at the town park. So I'm glad to hear that there's going to be a bit of leeway, but I would monitor it in my mind before we get to that situation where some people are desperate. That's my only thought. I really feel for some of the people that have to take the GO train, have to commute, have to put their children in daycare, and won't have a parking spot when they get there for the last train. And then, they'll probably lose their job. I think there's a ripple effect, there's a cascade to what we're doing, and we're not addressing what the real problem is.
Thank you, Councillor Abel.
And I don't know what the solution is.
Councillor Gardner? Thank you, Councillor Abel.
And Councillor Abel is right, because when this first came to the council in, I think, 2003, we were told that this problem would going to go away as soon as GO built their parking. And it hasn't happened, and we don't have all those people from the 2Cs yet. So through you to Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, the real, what would solve this issue would be GO building some more parking.
Through Councillor.
Or, no, well, I don't think they're going to build another station, but maybe. They're building a new lot?
So, Councillor Gardner, that's a good question.
I'm just wondering if through you to the mayor, if there would be any way to have a discussion with GO. Because
Mr. Mayor, can you answer that, if you have any information on that, or if there's any work with the GO?
Well, the person to talk to with respect to GO is a provincial responsibility. It's not us, it's the MPP.
Well,
But
that's
the
a very
reality
good
is that-
idea.
Pardon me? So, if we want to have that discussion at the provincial level, I happen to be going down and meeting with the minister on Thursday to have this very discussion.
Perfect.
But GO did announce Highway 47 and 404, a new station going in, supposed to be completed by 2016 with approximately 800 spots. Don't quote me on that. And then for 2018, a second station / garage at Bloomington. So that is on the plan. The reality is that GO is a victim of their own success. And that's not the only issue. The 15-minute RER is going to create huge pressures on parking. And GO is aware of that. So they are working through that as they go, no pun intended, as they go through their process, they are working on that. Parking is a major issue. Part of me says you have to make it more painful for people to drive their cars to get them out. That's a reality. So, we have to look at ways to encourage people to take the bus. Actually, I was just having a conversation with Councillor Tom about, and how many times have we had the discussion at this table that, the bus that went down my street empty 90% of the time. So York Region, and Councillor Abel asked this question 2 weeks ago, I believe. We just got the budget for the region. YRT is about $191 million. And it's subsidized to the tune of 60%. So over $120 million is coming directly out of the taxpayer's pocket to fund YRT, with about a little less than 40% at fare box recovery. So we are investing substantial dollars in public transit already. So in terms of more parking, that's absolutely what we're looking for, but it's got to be done in a manner that's cost. I mean, one of the things that's being kicked around, and I think it's in Councillor Abel's motion, is to charge for parking at the GO station. But interesting concept, ramifications, people will look for someplace else to park that doesn't cost them. So, I mean, there's many moving parts to this, and I'm probably not answering the question to what you would like, but there's a lot of pieces that fit in. And as a matter of fact, MPP Ballard will be at this meeting on Thursday that we're at.
Perfect.
And
We
it's-
can't wait to.
Thank
go
you,
ahead.
Madam Chair. It's a great answer. And I look forward to hearing the results of that meeting. And I'm just kind of thinking in my mind, there's that huge parking lot along the tracks that's just basically one level of parking. So maybe GO wants to build us some more high-rise parking. You might want to suggest that and see what they say.
You might want to be careful of that word high-rise.
Thank you, Councilor Gardner. Are there any other questions, comments? Seeing none? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. We'll move on to item number 3. Councilor Thompson moved this forward, or asked for this.
I'll move the recommendation.
May I have a seconder for that? Councilor Maracus? Okay, Councilor Thompson.
I just wanted to, bring something to the attention and have our Director of Finance comment on it. So, if I may, through you to Mr. Elliott. Mr. Elliott, we spoke briefly about it, but one thing that did jump out to me was the fact that in the budgeted forecast, the variance for corporate revenue expenditure, specifically the all other expenditure lines, was quite large. I know you addressed it a little bit in your notes. I was wondering perhaps if you could take a moment and just a little bit more detail about why the variance was so significant.
Mr. Elliott?
Certainly, there's two key drivers behind this item. Let me just bring everybody to the same page in the reference. We're on consecutive page 28 in the corporate revenue and expense section of the table. There's a line at the bottom of that section that says all other expense, and over in the variance column it's $775,800. Two key drivers of that is we all know that when we budgeted the supplementary taxes, we knew that they were going to come in much higher than that. And indeed they have. And that variance is up in the other revenue section. Sorry, it's up above on the supplementary taxes line. You can see that we're forecasting a $600,000 positive variance in that budget. What we have done in finance is we've factored in now a voluntary contribution to reserves of that $600,000, and that voluntary contribution was not included in the budget, and so that $600,000 contribution now is causing a $600,000 variance in this line item. I can clarify this individually afterwards if you wish. So we did not budget a contribution, but we're making one in our forecast, and so it's causing a variance. The other issue is the line for tax adjustments. We normally budget $180,000, and this year we've experienced an overwhelming number of adjustments necessary from a series of errors from MPAC in the handling of the 2C properties. Fundamentally, it's where the entire subdivision was assessed, and then each individual property got assessed, but the whole of the subdivision also was assessed. So it was duplication of the same properties. And so we've had to make adjustments to that, and we record those on this tax adjustments line. And so there's a $150,000 unfavorable variance on that line. And so those two things, the 600 and the 150, is 750 of the 775. I'd be happy to clarify any of this individually afterwards if you needed to.
Thank you. Councilor Thompson?
Thank you very much. And just as a follow-up, so had we not made that voluntary contribution of the $600,000, then our projected surplus would be $838,000, but that still would have gone into the reserves. So I'm just curious why we made that conscious choice to do it this way as opposed to just to leave it and deal with it through the surplus control bylaw.
Mr. Elliott?
I think in a way, it was my direction to do this, and it was primarily spirited from the change in the way we've budgeted for next year. Is that next year we have budgeted the full level of expected supplementaries with a budgeted contribution of the excess above our budget reliance target. And so we have a budget for a contribution of excess subs next year. And so seeing that we were still going to be in the surplus position, I asked my staff to factor that in.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the fact that at the end of the day, it ends up in the reserves. I just wanted to know more around why we decided to change the process, and I appreciate you taking the time to answer that.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Let's go on to item number 7 was pulled by Councillor Thompson. Councillor Thompson?
Thank you very much. I'll put the recommendation as is.
Councillor Maracus seconding that.
Thank you very much. Through you to the clerk. While I certainly appreciate all the work that's gone into bringing this forward, and I think that the format for now is certainly satisfactory. Just in terms of a timeline, I know that the thought is that as we move towards more of an electronic management system, that we can take advantage of that for the recording of these. Do we have a sense yet when that might be in terms of
Mr. Clerk?
a horizon?
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. I wouldn't want to give a definitive answer. As Council is aware, there are 2 key projects in our area related to records. There's the electronic document records management system, as well as the electronic meeting management system. And there are linkages between those 2, and so we can't jump ahead of one or the other. So I don't want to jump ahead of the EDRMS project on the e-agenda project, or we could be duplicating efforts. Certainly, I can say, though, we are definitely very significantly into the process of preparing an RFP to be issued for the acquisition of an electronic meeting management system, which will certainly include considerations around publication of council voting records.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson?
Just as a follow-up, so from the sounds of that, I mean, most likely it's a 2017 project. Then by the time the RFP is issued, it's rolled out, and we make some sort of changes, we may very well use this current format for the remainder of this year and most, if not all, of 2016 then.
Mr. Clerk?
Thank you, through Madam Chair. I would certainly hope that and it'd certainly be my best intention to have the e-meeting management system in place before the end of 2016. However, circumstances being what they are, you never know how those things will play themselves out. But yes, this program and the way we structured this potential reporting is to provide that bridge until that's fully implemented, including options relating to reporting out council voting records.
Finally, just thank you for putting it together.
Thank you. Councillor Maracus?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to our clerk, town clerk. Just looking at number 17 on the list, and it's the audio recording of closed session meetings. And it shows that the overall results were 4-5, and it was defeated, but yet when you go through it, there's 7 nays and 2 yays. So I'm just wondering if we can just adjust that and fix that.
Mr. Clerk?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Certainly before the final report is published on the website, we will ensure that everything is 100% accurate. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Puri?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you to Mr. Clerk. When we move to a system so throughout our discussions with the procedural bylaw, we're talking about maybe going to a system where we'll be splitting up items for information versus items where there is action requested by council. When we get to a point, and if we get to a point when we can track every single vote, are we going to put every single one of those votes on the website automatically as well? Because they'll all be tracked, they'll all be easily accessible. So if we're showing our voting record, I'd show it across the board. That's my personal preference. And if it can be done in a simple fashion, I think that's the easiest way to go. So is that something that's being contemplated at this point in time?
Mr. Clerk?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. As Council, as General Committee is probably aware, certainly as part of the procedural bylaw review, especially in the what was published for the previous workshop, I indicated that as part of the electronic meeting management software, we believe that there will be options for more regular electronic voting, which would speed up the process. And I would think certainly if Council chooses to adopt doing recorded votes for, say, all motions or whatever, the system, since it's merely a reporting mechanism, would be able to generate those reports. I think it'll fall to Council to determine, which, do they want all votes electronically or all motions but no procedural votes, and do you want it all published? And we'll be definitely presenting options in that respect.
Thank you. Councilor Perry?
Ideally, for me, I would have a recorded vote at every single vote. Just from a process, it takes too much time for us to go around the table on every single item to do it that way. But if we do have a mechanism that would allow us to vote electronically so everything can be tracked, that would be my preference moving forward. So I look forward to seeing the system that we have.
Thank you. Any other questions on this? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, motion carries. Let's move on to item number 10. Councilor Gardner,
Move the motion as is.
do you have a seconder? Mayor Dahl? Okay, Councilor
Thank
Dahl.
you. It's implied by the report, but it's not clear. The application that was made by PMK was to have a tax-based redevelopment grant for the period of 10 years. Through you, Madam Chair, to Mr. Rumino.
Thank you, Mr. Runo.
Through you, Madam Chair, yes, and that's what we're recommending, that the tax base grant be approved, and it's for a maximum of 10 years.
Thank you, Councilor Gardner.
Thank you. I do see the value in this to get redevelopment going. And it's true, the house that's there is not very appetizing looking. But I'm not in favor of spending more than $46,000 on this one particular application. I'd like to hear how the rest of council feels about that.
Thank you. Any other questions, Councilor Perry?
I would only state that an applicant has gone through an application process adjudicated by staff, and then the committee that myself and Mayor Daw sit on to review it, to decide that we're not in favor of that sum of money because it's too much money when they've already worked their way through the process isn't, in my view, appropriate. If we don't like the sum of money, I think it's more than fair to deny the application. But when you have one of our businesses in town working through an application with certain expectations, and then you get to this point and they've done all the work, and then council says, I don't like the rules that we set, because it is us who set and approved the CIP program, for us to say, well, I don't like it. We are approving too much money when it was something that we all decided on would be appropriate to do. It sort of defeats the purpose of the CIP program in my mind.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Perry. I see Councilor Thompson. I see, and
Through you to Mr. Ramuno. Mr. Ramuno, it says in the report on page 2 that in order for them to qualify for these tax-based redevelopment grant, or TIG, that they need to qualify through a minimum increase in their assessment. Can you sort of speak to that? Because I think that speaks to the question of the value of giving them a little bit of a reduction on their taxes, because there's a responsibility that at the end of the day, it's going to increase the assessment. But I'll let you speak to it.
thank you, Mr. Runo.
Certainly, through you, Madam Chair. Yes, that's correct. On the bottom of page 2, we have that note, which is bold. And if council were to approve the grant, it's contingent upon once the construction is completed and the property is reassessed, that there is an increase in the property value from what it was today to when it's completed of a $1.5 million increase in property value. And only at that point will we, through an executed agreement, will the property owner receive his tax grant.
And through you to Mr. Romano, just to clarify, so in essence, once this is done, we'll see an increase in the amount of taxes that the owner would pay to the municipality, and some of that increase is being essentially written off, so to speak.
Thank you. Mr. Bruno?
Through you, Madam Chair, that's correct.
And so I think, you know, going back to when the consultant first came to us and proposed the program and spoke to it, I mean, he had talked about in other municipalities the scope of activities that we identified within the community improvement plan. There was a return on investment, and I forgot the numbers that the consultant used, but essentially it was something like for every $1 invested, you get $1.50 or $2 back, or whatever the number is. And I think this is a perfect example where you're providing a little bit of incentive. They're doing a larger project, and in return, we're going to see a greater increase in the assessed value of their property, and hence the taxes that come back. And yes, over a period of time, 10 years, there is going to be a bit of a reduction, but the assumption also is that this is going to continue on in perpetuity long past that 10 years. So the municipality will certainly get back more than it's providing.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Mayor Daw? And Mr.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And as Councillor Perry has pointed out, this is a council-approved process. The applicant went through a council-approved process, so I will absolutely support the recommendation from staff. I think it's an opportunity for us to have a very successful business located in town, which is just what we're trying to do.
Thank you. And I believe Councillor Kim?
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair. I also support the recommendation. If any members of council does not like the program for whatever reason, I'm sure we can revisit the program itself, but I don't think we can turn back on this at this point. My question through you, Madam Chair, to Mr. Ramuno. Am I correct in assuming that it's the impact representative that does the evaluation of the property?
Ms. Bruno?
Through you, Madam Chair, yes, that's my understanding. It's impact that will assess the property when it's complete.
Okay. And does the evaluator know in advance that the owner of the property has this tax grant or this policy? This policy is hinging on what he or she values the land at?
Mr. Bruno?
Through you, Madam Chair. No, I don't believe so. And I think as Councillor Thompson mentioned, you know, the grant is for a period of 10 years, but long-term, the increased property assessment and taxes will be a benefit to the municipality moving forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. I guess there's no way of hiding that knowledge, but I would imagine there's a tremendous amount of pressure on the evaluator when there's something like this in the background. Is this if the owner decides to sell the property any time during those 10 years, is the tax grant transferable to the new owner?
Mr. Bruno?
Through you, Madam Chair, it's a good question. I'll have to get back to you on that one. Yeah, I don't have the answer to that. I know there are some programs that are that were not transferable, but I'll have to follow up on that one.
I thought there was a commitment to the agreement. It's not transferable from what I remember. And it's a commitment by the owner. Any other questions? Well, I guess staff will follow up on that. Any other questions, Councillor Kim?
No, that'd be all. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Abel?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And if I can through you, I just want to I usually go to the financial implications to figure out the bottom line. And I don't see one here. So if you could just sort of lay it out for me, he tears down a building, puts up a bigger, better one, and it's a commercial building. And we have a community improvement plan. And so in this case, he is assessed a tax, and we're going to reduce it 80% for 10 years. Is that correct, through you, Madam Chair?
Mr. Muno?
Yes, through you, Madam Chair, that's correct.
And the reason you can't give me that dollar figure is because we don't know how much we're going to assess him once his building is constructed, because we've got to wait for impact to give us the assessment value before we can tax it? Is that, have I got that correct, through you, Madam Chair?
Through you, Madam Chair, on page 2, we provided a sample calculation based on that $1.5 million increment. So that's sort of based on the current tax rate, and that's where we arrive at a $4,668 municipal portion of taxes that would be deferred each year for 10 years.
Okay, so that's what I thought. So if he did improve the value of 1.5 million, which is what we have to, a minimum, then he would be paying almost $6,000 in taxes. We take 80% of that off. We will let him reduce that tax by the amount of $4,668 for 10 years. So we're actually giving him back, total financial impact would be $46,000 in this case. Is that?
Yes.
Would that be correct, Madam Chair?
That's my understanding, is that right? Yeah.
Thank you very much. I think it's great.
Thanks, Councillor Abel. Thank you. Councillor, I'm sorry. Councillor Maracus, I see your hand. Okay, Councillor Gardner?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I do think this is a great program. I also think that this is the first time, I could be wrong, the first time that something like this has come before council, second time. And hopefully a lot of businesses will take us up on this offer. And that's my worry, that in the short term, we will be, in quotes, losing a lot of taxes, and that may have an impact on our budgets if there's a big uptake on this. And also, it wasn't clear in the report from the recommendation whether it was a 10-year recommendation. And perhaps through you, Madam Chair, to Mr. Muno or to the Mayor, when somebody goes through this process and it gets approved by the committee that looks at the process, it's not a given. It still has to come to council for council to look at the merit of this. And that's why it's before us. Thank you. Well, I just see heads nodding, so I'm guessing that's a yes.
Councillor Maracus?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to point out that there might be some short-term losses, but I think there's long-term gain in many ways. Long-term gain in taxes at the end of the road, and as far as redevelopment for our community in the core. So I think it's a benefit, definitely, that is great for the community.
Thank you, Councillor Maracus. We need a refresher on the return on investment because I believe there's a very significant one. But Councillor Thompson, I think you wanted. Anyone else would like to speak to this for the first time? No, Councillor Thompson.
Through you, and perhaps this is better directed to Mr. Elliott. Mr. Elliott, it's my understanding that when we first implemented the program, we put, I think it was $200,000 into the budget or a reserve account for the implementation of this program as sort of seed funding. So perhaps you can speak to the question with regards to this and any potential loss of revenue or impact on taxes. Would it come out of that $200,000 or not? And I think that would provide some good background.
Thank you, Mr. Elliott. Mr. Elliott?
Thank you, thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, I think it's an excellent question. Yes, we did set aside $200,000. Ourselves and the Economic Development Group need to get our heads together as to exactly how this is going to work, but I do see it as funding from that capital program, and the ongoing funding of the CIP initiative will be funding these reductions. It's important to note, though, the emphasis, or the key word in all of this, is increment rebate. And so if he's got $1 million of assessment now, and he tears that down, he has to put up $2.5 million of assessment, in which case we continue to collect the taxes on the $1 million, and we collect 20% of the taxes on the $1.5 million. And so we still end up ahead. And regardless of how we actually fund that transaction behind the scenes. But I think it's important not to lose track that we still get the original tax levy that we would have had nothing happened.
Thank you, Mr. Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Elliott. That's a great explanation.
Thank you. Are there any questions further? Councillor Perry?
Perhaps we could get a little bit more detail on that answer. Just clarified, put in, for next week, because it was my understanding that some of the other programs were removed from that, but this funding specifically was not taken out of that pot of money. So if we could just clarify that next time around,
Sure.
it would be appreciated. The only other comment I would want to make is it's important when these applications are coming forward early on in the process that if they're deemed to be of value by staff, and this one does indicate it's in our priority area, if council were to start slashing these programs when they come to the table, it's not necessarily an incentive for a business to apply, because they'll be working through the process, and then it demonstrates a lack of commitment from our end of the table to invest.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Perry. Any further questions or comments? I think if staff wouldn't mind for next week, that to have just additional information on the program again, just attach it to the report, I think, as a reminder. All right. Any further questions? Seeing none. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, let's move on to item number 11. Councillor Gartner.
Move as is.
Councillor Perry, second. Go ahead.
I'm looking on page 20, application 27. It says subdivision agreement executed by owner. I don't ever remember seeing that. So just perhaps some
Mr.
words.
Runo?
Number 27, page 20.
Yes, through Maroon.
Certainly through you, Madam Chair. Councilor Gardner, you were referring to item number 27, the Shimvest proposal?
Yes,
Page
please.
20. Yeah. So that's just a reference to what's changed since the last report is that this subdivision, it's been executed between the town and the applicant, so they can proceed towards building permits.
Thank you, Mr. Reno. Follow-up. I just don't ever remember seeing that. Is it always, did I miss it, or is this new?
Ms. Runo?
To you, Madam Chair, no, I believe we've always identified that as a final event as part of a subdivision process.
Thank you. A question, a lot of these are inactive, and I only noticed that one of them we're collecting, I believe it's a file maintenance fee on. So could you speak to that as well? I think there might be 20 inactive. I didn't count them, but there's a lot.
Mr. Runo?
Certainly, through you, Madam Chair, we do have a number of applications that are inactive, and we do have a practice, and we have a fee that's part of our council-approved application fee bylaw, where if determined by staff, if an application has been inactive in the sense that the applicant is not proceeding towards fulfilling his requirements of an application, we review those on an annual basis, and our requirement is to collect a maintenance fee for the file to keep it open. It's really where we want to encourage an applicant to continue to move forward and with the processing of an application. So there are some applications that we do identify where we've collected a maintenance fee. Others where we're not, there'd be some other reason with respect to why we're not. They may be trying to resolve an issue, and they'll be coming forward imminently with material that we've requested, but we are collecting those where we think it's appropriate.
Thank you. Thank you for the explanation. And I did only notice one that said anything about a fee. So is there also a timeline after a certain amount of time that we consider it inactive and start to charge that file maintenance fee?
Mr. Runo?
Through you, Madam Chair, apologies. Yes, again, it's really a question of where the application is, how long it's been sitting, sort of dormant, so to speak. And occasionally we do close files once we've heard from an applicant where they're no longer interested in proceeding. So it's something that, as the project managers, the planners will regularly review those files. And again, I don't really believe we have all that many out of the 60-odd files that we have. There's a small portion that are, inactive for one reason or another.
Councillor Gardner?
Thank you. Could I just picked one out, page 23, number 34. It's been inactive since April 2013, so a good 2.5 years.
Mr. Maruno?
Through you, Madam Chair. Number 34? Yes. Yes, and I've actually inactive, and I personally spoke to the Mr. Kara on that one, on that application. We did collect a fee, I believe, last year on that, and he still is working towards resolving some of the issues he has on site with his application.
Thank you.
Thank you. I won't go through the rest of them. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson?
Thank you. Through you to Mr. Ramuno. Mr. Ramuno, a question was raised with regards to development charges and these applications that we have. Would the assessment of the development charges be based on actually when they proceed with the construction, or is it based on when the plan was approved? Given our changes in the DC charges bylaw, I'm just curious whether or not it's the current versus the prior one.
Mr.
Through, excuse me, through you, Madam Chair, development charges are payable, as per our bylaw, are payable at the day of the issuance of the building permit. So with respect to plan of subdivisions, 2C, a portion is payable when we execute that subdivision agreement. The majority of those development charges are payable when the applicant receives his building permit.
So, for example, Councilor Gardner identified a few inactive files. So one that was inactive for a number of years. We have one from 2008. If they ever did activate the file and start building, then it would be under our current bylaw, or development charge bylaw, not previous ones.
Mr. Bruno?
Through you, Madam Chair, that's correct.
Thank you very much for that clarification.
Thank you. Councillor Marcus?
Thank you, Madam Chair. On page 27 of the report, number 43, through you to Mr. Marr. I'm just curious, what's the reasoning of the appeal? I'm just wondering if you can give the actual reason why they've appealed.
Mr. Marr? Welcome back.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, there will be a further report to Council in closed session about this matter to give further details and to request instructions. So I think there'll be more information to Council at that time. And given the matters in litigation, I think it would be appropriate to deal with it in that situation.
Thank you. So I'll have a conversation with you offline then, so I appreciate that.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, motion carries. On to item on agenda 12, Councillor Kim?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move the report as is, please.
Thank you. Second, Councillor Marcus. Go ahead, Councillor Kim.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, to Mr. Downey. And it could very well be my lapse in memory, but was the original contract, it was only for, I'm assuming that's what it says here, that the implementation was obviously not included. I don't recall. I thought it was for the whole 9 yards, but obviously it's not. Was I missing something, or I forgot, or can you clarify, please?
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Madam Chair. The contract, the RFP, was called with an implementation phase identified in the contract, so they did bid on an implementation phase. However, we had recommended to Council that we not implement the implementation phase, and that this was a new process and something new to Council, and we weren't quite sure whether or not we were going to get a product that was going to be successful in moving forward to the implementation phase. So we did not want to execute a contract with the consultant until we had some level of comfort with regards to the success of this plan and moving forward with implementation. So it was costed out in the contract. This is now us coming forward saying, we have a comfort level, we like the direction it's going, we believe you should move to the final or implementation phase of this project.
Thank you. Councillor Kim?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Through you again to Mr. Downey then. So what does implementation look like? Are we talking about with the, what are they called again? Anyway, the team that's working on it now, Fotin, would they be similar to project managers for the construction and building, or what does implementation actually mean?
Mr. Downey?
To you, Madam Chair. The implementation phase is going to, well, first of all, you're going to see a concept plan next week. It's going to be presented to Council for their review. The implementation phase will then carry that plan forward with implementation strategies, perhaps a phase development of the project, what phases should go first. Are there any land banking opportunities with regards to that? How would we engage the private sector in the development of these things? What level of participation would be required by the municipality, and in what area within the cultural precinct plan? Some of the cost implications with regards to the development of the plan. Those are some of the things that we are hoping to see come forward with the consultant. The plan is there for your review, but we don't have, or at least we would like a third party or an impartial party coming forward saying this is how we see this plan unfolding over a period of time.
Thank you. Mr. Kim? Sorry, Councillor Kim?
Thank you, Mr. Downey. I'm overall pleased with how the consultant process is rolled out, and I'm really looking forward to hearing their final or looking at their final report in a couple of weeks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and then Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I do support the recommendation. Also, Mr. Downey mentioned that we'll be getting the report next week. I just wanted to remind Council that we're getting it before Christmas so that we can have that time period to actually review. We won't be making any decisions next week. We're just going to receive it for information, so that shouldn't take much more than an hour.
Great.
I think.
Thank you.
Two.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. Councillor Thompson and Councillor Garner.
Thank you. Through you to Mr. Downey. Mr. Downey, you spoke to it briefly, but I guess would it be fair to say that because you've been involved in this Library Square, this area, for so many years, that you thought it would be best to sort of proceed in this sort of two-step fashion whereby, we take the first approach and look at developing that conceptual plan, and that if you felt that it was gaining some traction and that it looked overall to be moving in the right direction, that's when you would come back with this. So it was always your intention to sort of take it step by step, evaluate along the way, and then if you had a sense of progression, that you would come back with this second phase.
Thank you. Mr. Downey?
Through you, Madam Chair. I couldn't have said it better. That's exactly what my thought was. Forgive me for being a little gun shy with regards to the development of this particular area, but as you know, we've tried several different things. We weren't quite sure whether this was going to work, and so we did not wish to commit council to a fee that on a plan that you felt didn't have an opportunity to be successful. So that was our main thought pattern behind, or thought process behind not implementing or moving forward with the implementation phase, because we weren't quite sure that the product we were going to get, and whether or not there was a comfort level between council, the consultants, and the public, and some of the ratepayers with regards to some of the plans that we're going to come forward with.
Thank you.
Thank you. And just as a follow-up, in the attachment, it shows sort of the timelines associated and doesn't speak to the implementation phase. And so I guess one of the key objectives during that piece of time is to go out and I guess, find an expression of interest from various private partners who would be willing to work with the town on the development of that area. Is that correct?
Mr. Downey?
To you, Madam Chair, that's correct. We have already done one attempt to find out what the private sector, what level of involvement the private sector would like to see within the cultural precinct plan. We weren't totally satisfied with the level of involvement that we had from that. I have requested that the consultants engage into a second meeting. They are presently putting that together. We were hoping that that meeting would have taken place prior to December 8th presentation to Council. However, in conversations with the consultant today, I don't believe that's going to be possible. However, I have asked them to come with a date of when that meeting is going to take place on December 8th. So if the question is asked, they will be able to respond saying, yes, we're arranging five developers or whatever to find out what the level of interest is for the private sector to get involved in the cultural precinct. And that meeting will be on such and such a date. And unfortunately, I can't give you what that date is right now.
That's fine. And, I share some of the feedback I've heard both around this table as well as from residents and staff who are engaged. I think that I too am cautiously optimistic. I've liked what I've seen so far in terms of the development and the engagement, and so I'm supportive of the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I was at the tail end of the last workshop on Friday. Well, the last one was canceled, so the one that ended around 4:30. And there were, I thought that there was an undertaking by the consultant to be in touch with the Ratepayers Association in that area to get more feedback from them. So will that have, has that happened? Will that have happened in time for the consultants to add any feedback to the December 8th presentation, or, sorry, receive for information?
Thank you. Mr. Downey?
Through you, Madam Chair, the Ratepayers Association have requested a separate meeting. I have not agreed to that request. The Ratepayers Association, however, are interested in participating, and I have reached out to the consultant and said that if they wish to have a telephone conversation with them to talk about some of the aspects of the plan, they're welcome to. It was our feeling that the cultural precinct is a community-wide plan. It doesn't deal specifically with any ratepayer association. So we felt if we reached out to one, we'd have to reach out to all ratepayer association within the community, and that is not within their mandate. So we are going to be reaching out to them. However, we will not be holding a separate meeting with the Ratepayers Association.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Madam Chair, I absolutely disagree with that. The people who live in this area are going to have to live with whatever we decide as a council to put into their area. And I think they have a special vested interest, and that they absolutely should be consulted as a group. And I'm very unhappy to hear that that's not happening. I don't think it's right. Something is going to be imposed upon them. I would like them to be happy with what's coming to them, so we don't have all those residents.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Councillor, no further comments around the table? Councillor Thompson, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, actually, my apologies. Councillor Abel, sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'm used to it. I go back to the Southeast Heritage District study that we did, and we did it in 2 phases. And one was to go to the second phase, and we had enough before council to consider that we decided not to go ahead with it. And so Mr. Downey said as much about weighing the first part without committing to the second part to see where the buy-in was. And I notice that this has not garnered much attention within the district. It certainly did with the Southeast Heritage District study. So I can only surmise one of 2 things. Maybe they don't know about it, or maybe they are in favor of it and they like where it's going. I did see some stakeholders in the round table, so we are trying to attract people to develop, if that's fair to say. But I think also the people that own land are also very interested in what that has and the implications on what their properties might be worth and what we have in mind. So I think it's enlightening for them. And so I think that's why we may see some buy-in there. It's not just to attract someone to purchase or to invest or develop. It may be as well informative for those that have property and what they plan on doing in the long run. I did have a question on your you can say it, I can't.
Implementation.
I'll do it this way. On page 4, you have a chart, and there's the last phase, and you have under December 8th, release of the EOI. Is that what the mayor was talking about? Could you tell us what that stands for, please?
Mr. Downey?
Certainly. This is the project management chart that I had presented to council when we first moved forward with the project. It was always our intent that we would call an expression of interest, an EOI, to the private sector to find out what private partners might be interested in the commercial viability of the plan or commercial aspects of the plan. That still can take place. However, the timing is going to be altered now. December 8th doesn't work because we haven't got a plan before council. We should be looking at a plan that has some council approval attached to it, and I believe that it would be appropriate to at least get into an implementation phase with regards to that plan prior to going to the private sector or calling an expression of interest. So I believe that is still a step. It is a step I would recommend to council that we move forward with an expression of interest. It's not tied into a December 8th date any longer, though.
Thank you. Councillor Abel.
It's not tied in, I'm sorry, you said it's not tied in?
To a December 8th date, but rather to the date of approval of the plan and the implementation phase by council.
So the next part of the phase is, just generally speaking, it's in the report, I'm sure, but the implementation phase, specifically in this is, I don't see it.
Councillor, sorry, Mr. Downey, if you
We've
can
done the round
help.
tables, so it's going to be more detailed.
Through you, if you're are you looking for a date of when to be
Just sort of getting
completed?
an idea what that phase is.
Okay, so the phase is going to assist council in identifying strategic directions in which to move forward with the implementation. Issues such as expression of interest for commercial viability or private sectors, looking at a phased approach with regards to the development, what role the municipality could or should be playing within the plan, how those issues may move forward, talking or having discussions with regards to the stakeholders within the area, talking about land banking and those types of issues, some cost implications that might be associated with those things. Those are some of the issues that you're going to see coming forward with an implementation phase.
Thank you, and you did say that, Mr. Downey. I just wasn't putting it together. And I'm in support of this as well.
Thank you, Councillor Abel. Councillor Thompson or Councillor Maracus, who'd like to go first? Councillor Maracus.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I just want to kind of say that, I mean, I was at one of the round tables, and I know Councillor Abel was there also when I was there, and I sat at... There's a nice little tray. Just squeeze it and it goes away. Thank you, Linda. You know, so I sat at the round table, so I just wanted to make mention that everyone that was sitting at the table that I was working with, every single one of them was a property owner within the cultural precinct. So I'm not sure about the residents that were sitting at the table that Councillor Abel was at, but the table I was at, every single one was a resident of the area. So, I mean, for me, I look at it as whether we officially have a meeting with the ratepayers or not, I don't think that matters. I think as long as the residents come out and they're aware and they're being involved, that's all that matters.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Thank you, Councillor Maracus.
Thank you. Through to Mr. Downey. Mr. Downey, while I understand your comment with regards to not holding a separate or a specific meeting just for the Ratepayers Association, you know, I don't want anybody to walk away with a wrong impression. We certainly welcome, in fact, we encourage all residents to participate. We want to be inclusive in this. They certainly have been welcome and encouraged to participate in any previous workshops and/or any future opportunities to provide comments and feedback from them. I don't know if it was in an official capacity or not, but certainly there were members of the Ratepayers Association and property owners from the area at both Tuesday night's past workshop as well as at Friday. But just through you to Ms. Downey, would it be fair to say that we certainly encourage them to participate in any of the opportunities for feedback on the plan going forward?
Thank you, Mr. Downey.
Through you, Madam Chair, absolutely. All the meetings that we've been having are public meetings. The ratepayers or stakeholders meeting, we had hand-delivered 92 notices to all the stakeholders within the cultural precinct. We were notified by the Ratepayers Association that they were interested in participating and that they said they were going to have some members at those meetings. I have reached out to to FOTAN to have a conversation with them. However, as they say, I am not recommending they have a special meeting with the Ratepayers Association itself. We have also asked communications to open up the survey once again, and we are going to be notifying the Ratepayers Association that the survey will be open. They will be able to provide some input with regards to that, because as the Mayor had said earlier, what you're going to be seeing next week is going to be their proposed concept, and there will be an opportunity for input from the time you receive it until the new year for anyone to come in and make some comment that would maybe have impact on the final plan.
Thank you, Mr. Downey.
Thank you. And I think it's important. I mean, this is a community project, and we want continual feedback and assessment from all parties, business owners, residents, stakeholders, and I would certainly hope that everybody takes that opportunity between now and whenever to provide that feedback and to participate in this process. I think it's going to be as successful as we get those involved in it. So I appreciate that.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Gardner.
Thank you. Following on that, will the concept plan be available online over the holidays for people to have a look at?
Thank you, Mr. Downey.
Through you, Madam Chair, yes, once Council receives this, it will be a public document, so we are recommending that it be placed on the website so that anyone can make comment on it. As they say, we're also looking at opening up the survey again in case people want to make a comment for that. So we want to make sure that everyone has opportunity to make comment if they wish to.
Great, thank you.
Good to hear. The concept plan itself, or it'll be part of the agenda item? Will the concept plan be itself on the website?
Mr. Downey, if you know.
Through you, Madam Chair, the concept plan itself will be on the website. Right. You will also be receiving a copy of that as part of your package.
Thank you. A follow-up. I just meant for the residents so that they can find, for the community, so they can find it easily.
Yeah.
Not only in our agenda from next week.
That's correct. It will be not only in your agenda, but we are recommending it be placed on the website. It would be public information at that time.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Just like another question, I don't know, through you, Madam Chair, to Mr. Downey or Mr. Elliott. I'm wondering why the funds are being asked for now and not in the new year, as we won't be progressing with the implementation phase until the new year, and possibly, depending upon our public response, maybe not until February.
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Madam Chair, when we move forward with the implementation phase, or if Council recommends that we move forward with the implementation phase, a funding source must also be identified at that time. When the funds are drawn from that reserve will be dependent upon when the work is being completed and when we're going to be invoiced. But a funding source must be identified at the time of award of that phase of the project.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. So just to clarify, the funds won't be advanced until the actual work commences?
Correct.
That's correct. They invoice us once they have commenced the work and completed the work.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Let's move forward to item number 13, pulled by Councillor Peary. I have a second?
Madam Chair, I won't be moving this one.
You're not going to be moving this? Okay, may I have someone put this on the floor? Councillor Abel, second by Councillor Thompson. Councillor Puri, you'd like to speak to it?
So through you, Madam Chair, to Mr. Downey, could I get clarity on who's going to be overseeing the construction, whether it's going to be your department or whether it's going to be Mr. Simonoskis's department?
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Madam Chair, it'll ultimately be IES, however, we will be in communications with them.
So, thank you, I appreciate that. In the report, it says that it's going to be based on a construction that meets the town and the operator's mutual operational needs. For me, we've just spent a lot of money fixing this building, and I want to make sure that whatever gets put into place doesn't just meet operation, but also meets aesthetics as well as quality of workmanship that we've put into it. So I like public-private partnerships. I think public-private partnerships make sense. This one's going to be saving us $10,000 in the long run. I guess what are my assurances that whatever work that gets performed is going to be up to our standards? And so whether that's through you, Mr. Downey, or well, it'll be through Madam Chair, but whether it's directed to Mr. Downey or Mr. Simonoskis, I think that's what I want to know is in terms of quality. Where in this report do we have any guarantee that the work that's going to be performed is up to our standard?
So I appreciate that. So I think what I'm hearing too is that, at the end of the day, we have to have a successful project. So whoever is going to take ownership of it, regardless of what department delivers the facility or the building, who's going to own this, that it comes to everyone's satisfaction, right? Particularly the users. Is that what you're getting at?
I think right now, the only thing that matters to me is making sure that the work that gets completed in terms of the construction is going to be up to our standards. So this does not speak to that at all. It talks about reopening our agreement, which I understand is something we have to do, but in terms of our standards, our build quality, our aesthetics, making sure that whatever gets proposed falls in line with what it is that we've put into place there.
Perfect. Mr. Downey or Mr. Simonoskis, who'd like to start?
Through you, Madam Chair. So in response to your first question, I told you it was going to be a project that ultimately would fall within the hands of IS. However, the first part of that is the responsibility of my department. This will require some consultation with staff, user groups, to find out exactly what we require, we'd like to see happen in there. There will be a building permit process, so they'll have to submit drawings and make sure that they comply with code. At that point, we can make comment with regards to aesthetics or any concerns that we have. We also have a track record with this particular company and are satisfied with the work they've done previously. When those are approved, we will then turn the project over to IES to ensure that it is built in accordance with drawings.
So then to clarify, if there's a disagreement on the aesthetic nature of this, who gets final say? The person putting in the building permit or the municipality?
Mr. Downey?
The owner of the facility, always.
If that's the case and I have that assurance that the work is going to fall in line with the building, I'm happy to approve this, so I appreciate that.
Councillor Abel, Maracus, and Thompson. Councillor Abel?
I don't know. I didn't. Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. So, Mr. Downey, can you tell us whereabouts in the leisure complex this is going to go?
Ms. Downey?
Through you, Madam Chair, when the facility was renovated, we had made accommodation for a snack bar just outside the gymnasium. If you recall, as you go into the gymnasium, there's a space off to the left. That's where the snack bar would go.
Thank you. And so the overall is that the construction is going to be borne on the contractor who's going to lease the building from us. So we're not putting any more money in, and the long run is we're going to receive money from them in the form of a lease. The amendment is only speaking to the startup for the lease to reduce that monthly fee. Have I got that right?
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Madam Chair.
Through you, Madam Chair, the issue is a little bit more complicated than that. The contract that we presently have with Global does not include this snack bar. So if we move forward outside of the agreement that we have with Global, we would have to enter into another agreement with another party with regards to this. So we are recommending that we simply amend the existing agreement. As we say, we have a track record with these folks. They are providing great service to us. And they will come in at their cost, do all the leasehold improvements to our specifications for a given period of time with an agreed amount of fees to be paid. And at the end or the completion of that contract, all the renovations that are made become the ownership of the municipality, and then we enter into another lease or another period of lease with Global or anyone else.
Thank you, Mr. Downey. And you said they have a track record, a proven track record with us. Can you tell us where that is, please?
Certainly, they provide snack bar and vending for all our facilities. So at the Leisure Complex, at the SARC, at Town Hall, at the Community Center, at the library, all of those areas.
Did you say the Town Hall?
I did say Town Hall. We have vending here in Town Hall.
Vending, I got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Marcus?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had some of the same concerns Councillor Perry had. I'm glad those were answered, and I'm fine moving forward with this. I just had one more question through you to, I guess, Mr. Downey or Mr. Simonovskis, whoever can answer this. I see in the report that the estimated cost of the construction of the snack bar was provided by Global, and I'm just wondering if we've done some due diligence and have come up with our own estimate to see if it matches their estimate.
Thank you. Mr. Downey?
Through you, Madam Chair, no, we haven't. We have not done that. Global has given us some general ideas of what they would like to do. However, we are not looking at drawings at this point, and nothing has been submitted for a building permit. And only at that time do we feel that we could then give an accurate, or we would then turn it over to IS and they could get a third-party costing on this project. That's why I actually put that note in there, so that the council was aware that this was a cost estimate based on the discussions that we've had with them so far and some of the improvements they've already made. They feel they're probably looking at about this much money.
So just as a follow-up through you, Madam Chair, I guess it's safe to assume then that the numbers could change at some point and we could get some different numbers in front of us later on?
Through you, Madam Chair, they could. I would agree with that. I don't know that I want them changing that much. Going down, perhaps.
Well, no,
but,
down,
but
yes,
definitely
down.
not up.
Down, yes. I just, quick comment. I think, in my personal opinion, $65,000 is a pretty snazzy snack bar. So that's just my opinion. But hopefully it looks as good as it. I know, and I appreciate that. I'm just saying that's going to be one damn good snack bar.
We're looking for good snacks.
That's right. Thank you. Thanks so much. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Through to Mr. Downey, part of my question was already answered. You certainly indicated that at the conclusion of the contract, that if it's not renewed, the construction, the leasehold essentially become the property of the town, and I think that's prudent. But, to the question of, you can always use different materials, you can always do different ways, and so the cost can be greater or less depending on the specifications. But, given that we're reducing the cost to offset the cost of the construction, is the contract going to be written in a way that if it does end up costing less to construct it, that the reduction would be slightly less as well? So that we're not in a deficit position, that there's always some savings to the town?
Mr. Downey?
Through Madam Chair, absolutely, that would be the prudent thing to do. We are not committing to these numbers. We're committing to the process at this particular time with numbers that we've been provided. I think as we get closer to finding out what they're going to do and what those numbers are going to be, those numbers, any change in those numbers would be written into the contract and we would amend it accordingly. At the end of the day, we are looking for an opportunity to have them do the leasehold improvements and see the town make a profit on this particular venture. So that is our intent, and that will be ultimately what we will be signing off, but I can't commit to the numbers that we have right now.
Thank you. Councillor Gardner?
Thank you. That answers most of my questions. Thank you. The only one that I have left is, will this snack bar be open the same hours as the leisure complex?
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Madam Chair, generally they are, so certainly at the beginning that would be our feeling that yes, it should be open the same hours as the leisure complex. If we're finding from a business perspective that there doesn't seem to be a traffic, or there's and they wish to amend their hours, that's available to them within the contract. But at the beginning, they want to be there when people are there, and so you'll find quite often that the snack bar might be closed at the SARC during some periods of the day when they know there's a lull within the programming, but certainly every single night that the SARC is open, the snack bar is open at the SARC. But you might find it closed for a few hours during the day.
Thank you. Follow up, because it can be quite quiet at the leisure complex in the evening. So there is the potential to close it in the evening as well, or just during the day?
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Madam Chair, as I say, initially, we would like it open for the same hours as the leisure complex. I apologize. And then, if we're finding from a business plan perspective that it doesn't make sense for them to be open, or we're not getting any traffic, then we haven't got any objection closing during those slow periods.
Thank you. Follow up, but it's up to us to decide that, or it's up to the vendor?
It's primarily a discussion between both partners. It is an agreement. If we find that we are being too rigid on the agreement, they could theoretically move forward and ask for a termination of the agreement, and that isn't in our best interest. At the same time, we want to make sure that they address the needs of our customers. That's why they're there. So we make sure that those issues are addressed as well. So it generally comes as a conversation between ourselves to ensure that they are addressing our needs. I mean, we get special requests in some of the vending machines, and they have no objection to try to address some of those. At the end of the day, they're interested in moving product, and if any of our suggestions help move that product, they're happy to comply.
Thank you. And just if Council will bear with me for a moment, I didn't realize that the library was also under this control, and the food at the library is just absolutely amazing. And the food at the SARC is not so amazing. It's almost vending machine class. So through you, Madam Chair, who decides what's going to be sold there?
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Madam Chair, once again, that's conversation between both parties, and they subcontract out some of their services, as they do at the library, and they subcontract out their vending, but it's generally a conversation between ourselves and the contractor as to what is working well, and what interests or what comments we're having back from the public with regards to what they would like to see happen in these areas. So we may very well get a uptake for healthy alternatives at the fitness center, perhaps, and certainly we need to make sure we address that need, but perhaps that's not as great a need at the snack bar at ACC 1, perhaps. And so they're going to put a product in there that the visitors to that particular facility are going to be purchasing.
They want to make money. Thank you very much, Mr. Downey.
Thank you. I have Councillor Kim and then Councillor Abel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, through you to Mr. Downey. So can I confirm then? So the people who operate the concession stands at the library and the SARC, they are subleasees?
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Madam Chair, yes, the Global is our private contractor, and they then come to us and say we're going to be subletting to this particular company or that particular company. They have to do it through our approval, and so that's how we work that process.
Thank you.
You know, it'd be great. I consider kind of Aurora as a brand, and I think we have a certain standard in the town, and quality of the individuals that live here, not to see anyone else in the surrounding region or any less, but it'd be nice to have, a set standard for all the concession quality of the food or the appearance of the stands and so forth. So I hope that when it comes to the construction stage, whether it be from here or in the next contract, that there be some consistency. And regarding indemnification and relate to that liquidated damages, my understanding is that with all agreements and with lessees, there is a schedule of liquidated damages and indemnification should some accident happen around the stands. Do we have a detailed guidelines that's written up in the contract with Global regarding liquidated damages if they don't meet certain standards that we write up in the contract?
Mr. Downey or Mr. Marr? Mr. Marr?
Through you, Madam Chair. With this particular contract, I haven't seen in detail what it states, but we can certainly look into that and get back to council with some information about damages. But generally, there's going to be an indemnification clause if there is injury or damage to town property. There's going to be also a requirement for insurance as well to protect the municipality. And so those are the things we'd be looking for. But if council wants some more detail with regards to liquidated damages in this respect, I need to come back and inform council about that separately.
No, I would leave that into staff's capable hands. You know, if they're, I'm sure, as long as you can confirm that such detail is in the contracts, that's all the concern. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe there's Councilor Maracus. And did I see someone else? Councilor Abel. I'm sorry. No, Councilor Abel first. I haven't said it before. And Councilor Maracus. My apologies, guys.
It's okay.
I lost my notes.
I think the arena is going to be looking for some vending or snacks like at the FLC, through you, Madam Chair. The snack bar will be providing food and snacks to those that attend the arena.
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Madam Chair, prior to the reconstruction or renovations to the leisure complex, there was a snack bar, didn't do very well. And we converted that into office space for the skating club and did vending machines. There's going to continue to be vending machines provided, and there are vending machines provided on the cold side of the leisure complex. However, the snack bar will be accessible to the rink users, but there will not be a snack bar specifically located in the cold side of the facility.
So my question was, could the people from the arena go and get their snacks from the snack bar that we're putting out there? I think the answer is yes. They have the option.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so they might like a nice hot cup of coffee, mom and dad, rather than getting it from the vending machine. They'd be welcome to go over and get it.
Absolutely.
And they may find that the kids might want a bag of popcorn.
So, as I say, the menu itself will be determined by the users and their requests. The vendor is going to put in a product that moves, and if popcorn moves, they're going to have popcorn there.
Well, it could be healthy popcorn too.
Could be.
And as long as they're serving kale, I think that's all that matters. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Marcus?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Mr. Marr, I thought it was my understanding that the liquidated damages clause would be included, and if it was to be excluded, it would have to come to council for their permission to exclude it from a contract.
Mr. Marr?
Through you, Madam Chair, that's in all construction contracts we have. This is a lease we would have with Global Brand Food, so it's a separate type of contract.
Okay. So, thank you. Fair enough. But are they not constructing something? Through you, Madam Chair?
Marr?
Through you, Madam Chair, they're constructing their own premises for their own use, but they're constructing it through the lease agreement. So it's not a pure construction contract similar to an AFLC or a joint operations center. Or road reconstruction. It's not that. It's through the lease. They're making leasehold improvements to the town's building.
Fair enough. I guess I'm with Councilor Kim. I think I'd like to, maybe if we can get some more information on that and possibly look at including that on this one, just for because it is a little bit unique as far as they're constructing something on our property, so, on the town's property. You see where I'm going anyways, so.
Through you, Madam Chair, I do see where you're going. Normally, we have the liquidated damages where there's a delay component to what they're doing here that would impact the town. Here, if there's delay, it only impacts their own business, not the town's business, so to speak. They're providing a service to the town. They're not impacting the town's delivery of a service. And so, in that respect, it would be different, but we can certainly look into how the liquidated damages could work in this and report back to council.
Perfect.
Sure, and I don't want to blame, but I do feel that it could impact the services within the town, because there's going to be construction going on, so it could limit access to certain parts of the facility at times. So that's just my point, so thank you. I'd like to see that when it comes back, thank you.
That's a fair point, thank you.
Appreciate it, perfect. Any other questions or comments on this? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Just double checking, all in favor, opposed? Motion carries. No one cares. Okay, everybody, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, we are now at the end of our meeting and on to new business. General information, we'll start off with maybe Councilor Maracus, if you'd like to, any new business?
Did you want to do it, or? Oh, okay, yeah, I guess, yeah, thank you. If I make a motion, I guess, to have staff may possibly do some traffic counts, or, check the speeds out on, or do a traffic study on John Westway and come back to us
Absolutely.
with a report.
Thank you. Second that. Councilor Perry? Any comments or questions around the motion? Oh, sorry, just 1 second. Yes, please.
Thank you. If I just want to clarify, if I might suggest, the motion should just simply be a direction to staff to report back to council addressing the traffic concerns raised in the delegation, so that we don't